Yeah. Yeah, I bet. So yeah, just bear with us, ladies and gentlemen. We're just doing our bits and pieces we need to do. So let's turn that off for a sec. Sorry, 1 second, Tony. Let me get this. I have a still have bits that aren't connected together yet. So there we go. Cool. It's business. Dude, 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 dude. Marketing. Cool. All right. So that's that. Now let me just check to make sure this is live. Yep. Cool. All right. Okay. Okay. Guys, midweek live. I know it's a crazy time we live in. This is unusual, but it's a good test of it's something we want to do a lot of midweek, and we're starting to get more and more content. So we want to make sure that we still get our interviews in. I love interviewing people, and you know what? I really love talking to guests that live and breathe, marketing and live in the digital space, but also have their feet in the ground in real life brick and mortar businesses. And we're lucky to have Toni Lee with us today. Not only does she run a very successful consulting business, helping small businesses improve their productivity and systems and helping them, free up time in their lives, but she also manages to find time to run her other businesses and that live in the brick and mortar space, and has kids in tow too. So credit where credit's due. It's not an easy thing to do. So Toni, tell us more about yourself. Your businesses and what's a fun fact that most people don't know about glass.
Oh, morning, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me on today. I know it's been a little bit of a whirlwind to get here, and especially this week. How crazy is this?
Oh, I know. But I'm looking forward to this chat today. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Toni.
Thank you. Yeah, so a little bit of a fun fact about glass as well. So we do own a glass and aluminium business that's manufacturing and installation, mainly for residential and commercial, so not automotive. So that's really fun. The biggest thing I love it when people give us a call. Like, I know it's not fun for you guys, but when you've been in the industry for like nearly 20 years and you get asked this every single day, you just like, I have a broken window, and you go, okay, cool, no worries. How big is it? It's a standard piece of window. And I said, oh, okay, like a standard piece of glass. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Are you at home, are you? And so I love doing this to people. It sounds really mean. Can you go outside for me? And they go outside, and I said, see your house? And yep, is your house got the same windows as your neighbor's house? And they're like, no, they're different. I'm like, oh, perfect. And what about your other neighbor? And they walk over to the other neighbor's house and they go, no, they're different too. So the fun fact is, not every piece of glass is exactly the same size and the same piece of glass in the world. And I physically make people go out and have a look. And we have a bit of a giggle in our workshop and all the admin team. So we see how many people we can get a week doing that.
Yeah, it's sort of like I suppose it's something you don't think about when you're when your window's broken and you're just trying to get it fixed. But it's it's sometimes I'd imagine when you get the same question 5 or 6 times a day, you start to go, actually, like,
let's have some fun with this.
Educate the public. Yeah. What's that, sorry?
Let's have some fun with this.
Exactly. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your businesses.
Yeah, so I have 2 businesses. So obviously the glass and aluminium business, and then the second one is the business consulting, and that's in relation to helping businesses use alternative methods to streamline their company, right? So that's just a fancy word of saying we just cut the crap out, we help you fix it up and automate it, because there's no point you doing the same task every single day, which you could either be outsourcing it or automating it within your business. So in a nutshell, I'm very busy. I do have a little boy. He's 5 years old and currently expecting our next little bundle of joy in a couple of months. So not long now.
And how are you feeling?
Oh my gosh. I ended up in ED the other night, so that was fun.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so good times.
It's funny because, like, you probably don't even have time to really think about it either. It's just like, just keep moving along. And we've got 2 kids and I'm the same. I every day I'm like, I don't know how you do it, Pauline, between the business and the kids and everything. So yeah, credit where credit's due. It's not an easy, none of those in a vacuum are easy jobs by themselves. But when you combine all of them together, it's like 10 times harder.
Oh, it really is. Like, 4:30 a.m. get-ups is our norms at the moment. So,
Oh
yeah, it's a
wow.
bit crazy. And we don't even have a newborn yet.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's only gonna. Well, at least you're physically, mentally preparing for those early starts. It's like, at least you'll be like, oh, this is normal. 4:30 in the morning. When the baby's crying instead of getting up for work.
Yeah, just feed it.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit more about the diverse glazing group, and how did it come about, and what are some of the challenges you faced in growing the business? Because I know that it's had a fairly strong growth phase from what I was seeing, and yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that sort of journey and how that's coming along.
Yeah, I love this story. I actually wrote a book about it, which is really interesting. For the simple fact is, when you're growing a business, like we did this business as a startup. So my husband and I had a real estate agency when I was back in like my mid 20s. I owned that, and I also had my husband who has started up Medora Bay Glass, and he started that from scratch, and he was building it up, and I just saw how much he loved his clients. I used to go out on site with him and install the products, and because I was like, oh, you know what, you might as well, I'll just take the day off work, and the admin team can run the company, real estate, and I'd go help him with some big jobs, and the clients were always so happy with him and always loved his work. Not one ever complained. And then over time, I thought, do you know what? I really hate the real estate business. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to help him build up his glass and aluminium business. So we did. We built it up. So I sold it. Sold it about 6 or 7 years ago, and so from there on in, we built up Medora Bay Glass, and it's now a diverse glazing group. And it's a 7-figure award-winning glass and aluminium business in our local city. And we've got 3 locations as well. So 2 in Mandurah, 1 in Perth. We're really, really good in that demographic. So we're not like the largest in our city because we don't want to do any more than that. We're happy with our dozen employees that we have on foot. And so we've built that up all by just taking the risks and building the company from scratch to now a 7-figure.
So, some of the, like I like to ask this of everyone because like I could list, there's a million things I would have done differently starting my online guy. And I imagine, I don't think there's a single business owner that would disagree with that. Like if you could go back in time with what you know now and like do it again, then rinse and repeat, you'd be a lot further along. But what are some of the things you learnt the hard way with the diverse glazing group, or, even just, even your real estate business, what are some of the things you've picked up that have sort of, you wish you actually kind of did that wrong? Maybe we should have done it this way.
Look, there's so many things, but it, all in all, don't aspire to have employees. Like, I wish I didn't do that, because once we started to grow, we grew at a very rapid rate, and now we're having to deal with so many people and so many personalities and entitlements and everything like that. And all what like my husband wants to do is just do the job, and most business owners just want to do the job. They don't want to deal with employees. Like, they want employees to help them, of course, but it's to that, I like to call it cloud or the puppy stage. Like, you just want 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but you don't want 10 or 20 employees, and that's what we've got at the moment. So we've got 10 on feet employees, so in our house, and we've got another 10 online, employees as well. So we're dealing with those 20 people, 20 staff, 20 personalities. It's really hard. That's one thing I wish we didn't do.
Yeah, it's funny because like in our industry, it's sort of like it's the same sort of deal, but like yeah, I was lucky because I kind of got this informal mentor that has a really large agency in the eastern states. Like, he's got like 15 staff, which is really big for what we do. And he was like, I made more money when I had 6 staff than I did when I had 15.
Yes.
And because we need a 9,000 a month office, and like we're in the middle of Sydney and stuff. Back when it was just in like a little building and stuff, we made more money.
Yes.
So sometimes people see the staff numbers and go, oh, that's really good, you're really successful, but actually like you know, it's there's a lot of costs that come to having staff, especially, and I think sometimes people don't appreciate how much it actually costs to have people helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually sitting in one of the, so this is our very first branch that we brought from Medora Bay Glass 10 years ago. I'm sitting in this little office. This is my, office. I've been here forever. And every time we get stressed out from our other factories because we've got the two other factories, we literally come here and we zen and we just do, okay, so this is where it started. This is like, because we want to be humble as well. We appreciate everything that we've gone through, but we come back and we look at our factory and our workshop and go, well, wouldn't be nice to go back to this? Just be the two of us and like an apprentice or something. You're like, oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Like we've got a few clients that have deliberately made the decision to stay smaller. And, I look at their quality of life and go, oh, yeah, I'd love to go crabbing every day, just do your few jobs during the day and just spend the rest of the afternoon relaxing. And, Gary Vee brings up a good point. He's really changed his tune lately, especially around that, going like, you can earn $40,000 a year and have a really good quality of life. It really just comes down to perspective. There's million people worth $200 million that wish they just didn't have the money and just was able to just relax and not have to stress all the time and stuff. So, I think sometimes, everyone sort of looks up and looks at what, oh, I want to be bigger, I want to be there. And it's like, actually, there's people that are looking up, down, going, actually, I wouldn't mind just living in a caravan and, going fishing every day or going camping every day. So, yeah, it's interesting perspective. So, I'd imagine now, so did a lot of the processes you walk through with clients these days come out of what you've learnt with the diverse group and the real estate agent?
Yeah, absolutely. So the real estate agency, not so much because I did sell that, 7 years ago. But diverse was the actual one where I even created, the secondary business from diverse because of all the learnings that I learned. It was such a massive change and a huge, an abundance of that I could take so much from. So the real estate's it's really strict in a lot of its ways. Like it's all routined and it's managed the way it is. And but with the diverse glazing group, I was able to take away so many portions out of that and implement it to other businesses. So I can implement it to, graphic and designing businesses. So do you know how they make up those labels and stickers and stuff like that? I was able to implement it to other tradies, which is really, really amazing. But it's not just in the one demographic. I was able to spread it out into many. So I'm actually working with IT consultants at the moment and business masterclasses. So if you can see the strategy of you just have to just twist it a little bit to make it suit them. So I've really grown.
So Megan here has asked a question: is there any opportunities to outsource this part of the business? Now, I'm not that came up a little while ago, so I'm not sure the context. It's funny, I'm gonna just assume that she means this part, as in the communicating. I don't know, I think that just about everything elements of everything can be outsourced. It doesn't necessarily, look, I think doing these live streams, obviously, there's a visual element to it. And look, it's really, I'm the face of the baby, but all the coming up with the questions, all of the editing, all of the processing, that isn't done by me. Here we go, Megan. I meant the HR. Oh, the HR. Yeah, go. Okay, that's more your side. So anyway, back to mine. We outsource every part of this step except for me talking. So that's for context. But yeah, HR, that's a big one. I think most businesses struggle with that side. That's their weak point. And yeah, I'm sure there's some tricks and tips there.
It all depends what you mean by that, Megan, because HR is such a huge, if you think about that side of it, and I know when you typed that message, I was talking about the 12 employees and then another 10 online. So that's when that message came through.
Ah, sure.
Yeah. So, we can outsource a lot of it, but a lot of it, you want it to control it as well. So, because we have I don't mean to sound snobby, but we have very high expectations of our workmanship because for us to be an award-winning, glass and aluminium business, we have to also succeed in many different aspects of quality of workmanship with with a 95 to 98% of a rate to make sure all the quality has gone out that highly. So no stuff ups, no mistakes or anything like that. So you can't really outsource that. We have team meetings, we have team trainings, and you can't delegate. I pretty much outsourced as much as I can from the business. That's why we have so many online people.
So yeah, that's interesting. It's a great lead up. Great question, Megan. Guys, if you do have any questions, this is why I like going live, because we're always, the best responses we get are ones that I haven't come up with. So, if you have an idea, if you have any burning questions about outsourcing or marketing or anything in general, just hit us. There's between the two of us, there's a lot of knowledge about a whole range of topics. So, please feel free to ask the questions. We'll answer them live as we go. But, one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you, Toni, is obviously we met in real life and we talk and stuff, but you posted about a month ago, or like even 2-3 weeks, and just consistently about this follow-up and the return on investment you get following up people. It's a big part of our success. I came out of agriculture. It was just par for course. But what are the, why? So here we go. Yeah, sorry, I lost the question, but yeah, what do you, talk a little bit about your process for following up clients, things like that, because I know you use a bit of outsourcing as part of that. And why do you think some businesses don't follow up as much as they should with inquiries?
Well, can I just start off with a little story of the reason how I came up with it? Because it's going to make a lot more sense. I'm a little bit crazy when I do start things, but if I don't explain the story. So what happened was, I was telling a story to say that I would go see my car cleaner, for example. Now, my car cleaner would charge me about $120 every 4 to 6 weeks to clean my car. And they were never following up with me. So I'd be like, oh, look, I need to book you in to do a clean. And that was me having to book with them, right? So not them calling me, but me having to do that. I'm like, well, if they're consistently not reaching out to me and I'm consistently having to remember, over time, they're going to be losing a few cleans, maybe 3 or 4 throughout the year, because I'm not making it a priority to have my car cleaned. So if you think about it, every 4 weeks, the car's to get cleaned, it's $120, and I go every 8 weeks, because by the time the average is out, they're missing out on 6 months worth of cleaning, right? So it's nearly $700 or $720 that they've missed out just from one person throughout the whole year. And I thought, well, if that's one person, and if they've got like 30 clients or 50 clients a week that they have coming in, how much more are they missing out on? So then I thought, okay, hang on a second. Apply that to diverse glazing group. So I did. And I thought, holy heck, we're missing out on some big dollars here. And to the point of I worked out, I didn't know the statistics then because we hadn't done it before. We were just doing it here and here, just making a few phone calls and doing it there. In the first 3 days that we did this following up process, we generated over $4,000 in sales. And by the end of that 7 days, we generated over $12,000 in sales. By the end of the 30 days, so from day 1 to day 30, we generated over $20,000 in sales just by following up. Now, the number one reason why business owners don't follow up is, there's 3 reasons, but the number one reason is they don't have time to do it. They have already done the consult, or they're going out to deal with the client, or whatever your business is, that is exactly what you do. They will come to me if they want me to do the job. That is the number one answer to that, so they got no time to it, they'll come to me. And the third one is rejection. They don't want to hear no. Who wants to hear no? I was shaking on the phone when I was calling these people going, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you've inquired about a patio enclosure. It's about $8,000. Did you want to go ahead with that? No, Toni, we don't want to go ahead. It's too much. Oh, okay, no worries, Mrs. Jones. Thank you so much. Bye. Hang up, right? And you get off the phone and you're like, because you're a CEO founder, like you are the boss, like of the company. And you're like, oh, that hurt. That hurt the heart. You know what I mean? Yes, Megan, you know what I mean. That's so hard. But now, because I don't do it anymore, the rejection is so painful. Like you just like, you can't handle it. And you're dreading to pick up that next phone call. You're like, hi, would you like to go ahead? Because you've just been stabbed in the heart like 4 or 5 times and you're just like, oh my God, got to do it again. But I've got the process like down pat now, and we generate over $250,000 annually just by following up. It does get easier, Megan, but now I get my people to do it, so I don't have to do it at all.
It's easier by outsourcing. Yeah,
it's easier by outsourcing.
It's funny you say that though, because you never like it actually. So I did a lot about this because I was in sales for a long time, right? Selling machinery. So like that tractor there is worth about $500,000 in real life. So when you're talking to a farmer and you only sell like 15, 20 machines a year, you can't really afford to let someone go. So like, but like when you're like sitting there and you're having a conversation about $500,000 and it's like, if you say the wrong thing, you're going to lose it. You build a tolerance to it. I think you never get over rejection. I think it's just an innate human feeling, but you build a very high tolerance to it. There's some people that, like I don't like politicians at the best of times, but you can tell a politician from someone that hasn't done politics before because of their tolerance to rejection. Yeah. Like there's people going, oh, you're doing a terrible job and this is bad. When the bushfires were happening and Scott Morrison was getting hammered about it, it was all just water off a duck's back. Like people were saying he should quit, and he's just like continuing on with his path. He just ignores it. Yeah. And you just like when you just build a tolerance to it. But actually, a lot of it, I did a lot of research when I was in sales about this, and a lot of it actually stems from how your parents interacted with you when you were a child. So if you got told when you were a child that if you keep asking, you're not going to get this, a lot of it actually stems from that. So like if you were consistently told, oh, if you keep asking about Christmas, you're not going to get anything for Christmas. You just build a natural hesitation to ask for things. Yeah. And those people that never got to ask that, they're just like, well, the worst you can say is no. And it's easy to say that in a vacuum, but like when you're sitting there for $500,000 and you're like, oh, it's easy, if they say no, so be it. It's like, well, actually it has a tangible effect. So yeah. I definitely think, I don't think you ever get over it. You just build a very high tolerance to it. But like you said, outsourcing, it makes it a little bit easier to do because you find those people that have a high tolerance to it. Yeah. They don't care. It's like, someone that's telemarketing or something where they get 90 no's to 10 yeses. Yeah. They just don't care. It's like, nah, doesn't affect me at all sort of thing. So yeah, just an interesting insight.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. Like you talk about telemarketers, like who have, who just have quotas to call. But like these people are actually your people who have actually come to you 9 times out of 10. You've like connected with them. So there is a connection there. It's not as if it's random calling. Do you know what I mean? Like they have actually called you. Like they do want, like, and a lot of the times it's either a yes or it's a no or it's a maybe. And the reason why it's a maybe is because they might not have the funds now. But like they might have it in a few months' time or in a few weeks' time or at the end of the year. So it's sort of like, no worries, but I'll just put your information on hold until then. Like, that's good. So it's either 1 or 3 answers, so it's not too bad.
So what are some of the things, obviously generating that much revenue from following up, you must have gather some insights. So what are some of the responses you get from people when you follow them up, on why they, because I'd imagine if you don't hear anything from them, but you follow up and they say yes, there must be some reasons why they haven't actually gotten back to you.
Yeah. Number 1 reason is they're too busy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Like they're just too busy. So, and I do it all the time, for example. So like my electrician will give me a call and say, Toni, like you called me 2 weeks ago to install your TV, PowerPoint to your TV. It's been 5 years now. He hasn't followed up with me since. He followed up once and I said, yeah. And I just want a few other things done. He's like, no worries. And he hasn't followed up with me since. And I'm like, dude, I've got about $2,000 worth of electrical projects for you to do. You need to put this in for me. But no, it's just too busy. And I'm too busy to give him a call and say, can you please come around and do the arrangements? That's the number one reason.
Yeah, I think that's almost a lot of it, isn't it? It's not because they don't like you or they don't like the pricing or anything like that. They're just like,
No.
well, I've got a million other things to worry about. Like, I need it done, but I've just completely forgot. And
Yeah.
I get that a lot with what I do. I'll follow people up, and they're like, oh, yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. Yep, sounds good. Let's do it. It's like, oh, sweet. That wasn't as. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be on the call. Um, but you got to do it. Like you haven't, like you said, you can't be just leaving that much money on the table because if it doesn't go to you, it goes to one of your competitors, and that pays the bills. So
Oh, and do you know what, Jimmy? Like January just gone, so a couple of months ago, we've had our biggest month ever for following up, and we reached over $75,000
wow,
just from
that's
following up.
amazing, isn't it?
You
That's a
know, like
person's salary.
that is, yes, absolutely. And it's crazy, like the fact that if we didn't follow up, would we have gotten that job anyway? Probably not. And that's what we've got to
No.
think of. Like we wouldn't have gotten those jobs.
And I think, and it's such a, I don't like to say it's a rare occurrence because anyone that's been in sales knows that's part of the course. But like, a lot of tradies that do really good work. So one of our key, visions is like, we want to help like good people become renowned for doing great work at scale. So like,
Yes.
these guys that do really good work, generally in the marketing space, the ones that don't do good work are the ones that generally get all the work because they spend a lot more time marketing what they do because that's the requirement. So like a lot of these guys that do good work, the last thing they're thinking about is like, oh, I've got to call this guy and ask him if he wants to do it. They're just like that sort of mentality. Oh, they're going to come to me if they need it. But yeah, I think people need to appreciate that. What's really important to you is not really important to them.
No.
But unless they're prompted, they're not going. They're just putting it at the bottom of the pile every time.
Yeah.
Once they're into it, they're into it, I suppose. But yeah, 75 grand in follow up. That's just amazing. Imagine how many businesses are just missing out on even a grand or two or three or whatever
Oh,
just by
it's
not
all
following up.
yeah, it's all in proportion. So even if you're turning over $100,000, and you're like per annum, and you're doing some following up calls, and you get an extra $1,000 a month, like that's a big deal. That's an extra $10,000 or $12,000 at the end of the year for your business. So you've just generated an extra, over 12% of extra revenue that you would not have had before. Do you know what I mean? So it's all in proportion. So for us, we're generating our like this is now minimum requirements because we've just had to hire
Set the
more
bar high.
people. Yeah, we just put that bar up higher. So, but because we've had to hire more manufacturing staff. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it's all like, okay, cool. Now we can afford another employee. Now we can afford another workshop. And so our workshops are getting bigger and everything. So, yeah.
I think it also has it has the I always tell people, right, the best time to do marketing is when you're really busy because you want it to be working really well when you're not. And that's one of those things like your team's trained to do the follow up. When it's busy, it probably, it's just money for jam. But if it gets quiet, you're going to rely on their ability to follow up. So like training them while it's busy so that when it's quiet, they can just like jump on the field and start hitting home runs, So
Yeah. And I
I think
absolutely
it
love
makes a
what
big
you said
difference.
before about with the tradies, like the good ones don't advertise and market because they're too busy doing the skill that they love and which that's what they should be doing. And then they should be getting somebody like you to doing all their marketing so that way they can have more money coming through the door. So without having to fight for it as well.
Yeah, 100%. So like, that's a great segue to the next thing I wanted to speak about, which was outsourcing. I love it. I think more businesses, in the brick and mortar space, really need to look at it as an option because, that really good electrician that's renowned for doing great work and is, doing an amazing job is basically just physically limited to the amount of jobs he can do because he's coming home at till 10 o'clock at night invoicing or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot of elements of businesses that can be outsourced. But like, yeah, so outsourcing like a boss, which is your other baby, is starting to gain a bit of traction. And so tell us a little bit more about outsourcing like a boss and like how it helps businesses and how you help people with that.
Yeah. So just to clarify, not the actual baby that's coming.
No, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the name of it. I thought you knew that already. It was voted, community voted.
Trademarked.
So Dave Clare brought up one of his Clarisms, which is his quote. This is Dave came on the do what you do best and outsource the rest. There
Yes,
you
and
go.
thank you so much for that, Dave. I did steal it. I know that I was going to, and I did. You're the best, Dave. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, there's a bit of an in-house joke, isn't
No,
it?
no, look, the long-time followers will know what we're talking about, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so outsourcing like a boss. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I pretty much, as we discussed earlier, I pretty much picked up everything from Diverse Glazing Group and implemented that into outsourcing like a boss. And it was, and it's all about literally outsourcing. And what Dave has said as well, do what you do best and outsource the rest. So with in relation to that, oh, thank you, Dave. So with that, we don't outsource much here in locally. So we do predominantly hire people, and we have like tradies or manufacturing people or administration staff. But all the other bits and pieces that can be done with a laptop is usually outsourced to my offshore virtual assistants. So what I mean by that is sometimes a little bit hard to explain. So I try to break it down. So help me out if you've got a different view on it. So pretty much any sort of administration task that you want, or that you're coming home and it's 10 o'clock at night, like what Jimmy said, and now you have to do is your invoicing. You've got to do your quotes from throughout the day. You've got to do your scheduling. You've got to book in your appointments for tomorrow because you didn't get time to do that throughout the day because you're too busy answering your phone or you're too busy on site doing the job. So generally what that happens, how I teach business owners is actually how to utilize virtual assistants. So that's the name of them. They're not computer robots. They're actually human beings. You would be surprised. That's the number one thing I get asked. Are they robots?
Oh no, yeah, look, it's I think it's such a, in the tech space, it's obviously a pretty standard practice, but like
Common.
you go outside of the tech space, and I can see why they think it's robots because this like work's just magically getting done,
Yeah.
and they're paying a lot less than it would an admin assistant or whatever, and
Yeah.
getting good quality work. So yeah,
Yeah.
continue on. I think it's worth elaborating on what a virtual assistant actually is, what they do, and things like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, and it's a little bit tricky because I do work with mostly trade-based businesses or manufacturing businesses. So, like, whether or not you could be the humble stubby cooler maker or the shirt press printer, or you could be a tradie. So it's like anything that you manufacture, 99% of the chance they have never heard of a virtual assistant or know what they do or know what their tasks can be done. Like even just the other day, yesterday, I got 3 inquiries come through, and they want somebody to answer the phone, somebody to do ClickFunnels, and another one to do marketing. And I say, sorry, that's not what virtual assistant does. You need an actual business person to do those jobs. And then I send off my online guy, send them all the links so that way they're all connected to local people to do that type of job. It's a virtual assistant is to mainly do like your bookkeeping, your administration tasks, your schedulings, your quotes, your invoices, just to name a few. So obviously your graphic designing and all that type of thing is included, but just the bit I focus on is obviously systems and structures and automation within a business, which is administration tasks.
Yeah, I think that's where the misconception comes in with outsourcing is they think it's like like every job is broken down into little processes, right?
Yep.
And they think, okay, well, what's Dave? Dave's always got insights with this kind of thing. So what do we got here? There is a difference between buying yourself a job and building a business. As you evolve a business, you need to let go of work that others could do, so you can focus on the work you must do. That's a great point, and it actually leads on to what I was saying there. Basically, like I think the big tipping point for me was going, okay, well, actually, okay. So one of the things we do, right, like these live streams, there's when we first do them, I was saying to Pauline, oh, look, I have to do it because it's like, it's my face on there and,
Yep.
you know, but when you actually break down the individual steps that make up this live stream, you have coming up with the questions, organizing to get the person interview like yourself, the editing, the cutting, the promoting. They're all individual steps. The only bit that I really need to do that no one else could really do that well is this physical bit.
Yep.
Every other element of that someone else can do. And that's what, you take the electrician for an example. The electrician probably goes, oh no, someone can't invoice for me. It's like, well, what about, you know, contacting your clients for the next day, setting your appointments, all that stuff is individual processes that could be done by someone else. And I think there's a big misconception that like a VA or even assistants, like I think admin assistants cop this more than anyone else, like brick and mortar ones. You know, they're like, oh, you need to do all of this. And so actually, let's break them down into its individual steps and then do the bits that they can do the bits you can do, and then work out
Yep.
what's in between.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so
I fully agree with all that.
yeah, it's just it was like one of them tipping points for me, because when we started, so we've been subscribing to Systemology by David Jennings, and that was the big thing, is like taking your big like projects and just breaking them down into what actually makes them up, and
Yep.
then working out which individual bits piece by piece. Because I think it also too, why someone, you know, someone needs someone like yourself, Tony, is it's an overwhelming process, you know, to
Oh,
like go, I've been doing it myself for the last 10 years, but I need help. I acknowledge that, but I don't even know where to start, you know, because I don't even have the time to do the invoicing, let alone setting up the processes and whatever to make it so it works. So like, I think, you know, that's part of what you do, isn't it? It's helping businesses
pretty much hold their
develop
hand.
those.
Yeah. Yeah, just hold their hands through the process. But it's really interesting the fact that when you were saying, I'm just going to bring you back a little bit, because when you were saying that when you were doing these lives, you had to do them all. And that is okay. That's absolutely every normal, like every business owner's normal response to everything. Why? Because this is your business. This is the future. This is everything that you've built it up to, right? So, and that's the thing that I like to break down to business owners, is to say the fact is, yeah, that's great. How's it working out for you? Oh, mate, I'm just so busy. I can't do this all. But then why are you? Oh, because I can't let go. Okay, so why can't you let go? Oh, because they're just not going to do it right. Okay, well, let's break that down. What can't they do right? Well, they can't be me on the computer screen, for one. It's like, okay, they can't be you. What's the next one? He's like, well, they can't do the questions and they can't write the questions. It's like, well, why not? Can't they like email the client and get the bio link and write down a few things and write down a few questions for you? Oh yeah, I suppose I could do that. You know what I mean? So it's breaking those beliefs, it's breaking those negative responses from that business owner to say, I have to do it all, to go, let's let it go a little bit. Maybe you don't have to let it go. So let's say there's 5 stages for your business. We'll just break down 2. We'll give away 2 stages. And then over time, when they build up like a relationship and confidence with that virtual assistant, you give them 3. And you're like, why didn't I give them 4 straight
Yeah.
away? You know?
It's funny. There's a few, you know, I've used this analogy before in this chat, but it's the greatest. The best. Some people like to be a martyr for their own self. They like the idea. They feel guilty if they're not working 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, because they just feel like they're not. But you can do 14 hours a day and spin your wheels and like not achieve anything.
Yep.
We used to get a lot. So like there's a GPS system that drives the tractors. And so part of my job when I first moved into agriculture was actually getting people into those systems. And you get every time you get the old farmer, they'll be like, oh, we don't need it. We haven't used it. You know, we've been doing it this way for 50 years. We don't need GPS. The sun forces them to get it. And basically when it breaks, they're the first people on the phone going, oh, you know, you need to come and fix this. And like, oh, you can still steer it and drive. No, just come and fix it. You know, they won't ever admit that they needed it.
Yeah.
But once they have it and once it's working well, they can't live without it. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of that martyrism where it's like, you know, I need to be working 15 hours a day in my business because that's what needs to be done. When it's actually like, there's no shame in working a 10-hour day, 8-hour day in a business. And as long as the wheels aren't spinning and you're moving forward, then, you know, you should be confident that that's the way it's all moving. But yeah, there's so many businesses out there that they just do it because it's like a badge of honor to say you work 15 hours a day.
Yeah, that was me. That was me. But I would also make sure I'd get enough work out of those. You know, I'll do 100 hours a week, and that was when we had a little 18-month-old. So, and I would actually make sure, and we were going through crazy phases. So I'd have my task list, and it was so long and so huge, to the point of that's when I started to learn how to outsource, and to reclaim my time. So that was tipping point for me.
So let's talk about a few examples where a virtual assistant can help a traditional. Let's talk about Joe Plumber, plumbing business.
Yep.
You know, because I love, you probably hear it a lot, but it's like, and people saying, oh, that won't work in my industry or that won't work in my business. There you go, Dave. Yeah, stop the glorification of busy. I totally agree. I think sometimes people just they
It's
like the idea
ridiculous.
of going to a chamber event or something, going, "Oh, we're really busy and like I'm having to do 20-hour days." Well, if you spend 5 hours a day of them doing nothing, just spinning your wheels or like looking at a blank screen, then you're not really achieving anything. So I agree with that. But yeah, so let's talk about Joe Plumber.
Yep.
He reckons he's been doing it for 20 years. He reckons he can't get any help.
Yep.
He's tried admin girls before. It hasn't worked. Where can VAs sort of fit into someone like Joe Plumber that could use the help?
Yeah. So it it all depends on the person, right? Because we all know, Joe and Bill are totally two different people. They've got the same company, they've got the same turnover, they've got every sort of thing exactly the same, but their personality's different, right? So I always recommend, and I always start with the administration side, and that's always based on either bookkeeping or administration. So, and that's part of, so bookkeeping can be like invoicing and reconciliation and quotes and following up, because that's going to generate you money. Like it's going to put money into your bank account, right? But also administration. So we need to be handling the email inquiries that come through, or the work orders that come through from the real estates or the public, or their contractors and stuff. And then that way they're taking the administration tasks away from that Joe or Bill. Do you know what I mean? And already just by doing that, so Joe and Bill, who are both plumbers, they go out, they go onto site, and they may have an assistant or they may have a tradie with them, like an apprentice or something, but they're always on the phone because they're answering phone calls. So not only are they meant to be only spending an hour on a job, they're spending an hour and a half on a job because they're too busy answering the phone calls coming through from all the emergency jobs that are coming through. You can tell I'm in the industry, right? Take a breath.
There's tradies that are watching this at the moment going, "That's me," tearing
Yeah.
up because it's like, oh, it's me.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard, and like no fault of of any tradie. It's what it is. My husband went through it. Like I was there with him going through it, so I know exactly what you're going through. And so like the tradies are on site. They're taking an hour and a half to do the job. They should have been finished at 4 o'clock, but they get home at 6 or 7, like from the last day, like the last residential job. The clients are pissed because he was there until 7 o'clock at night and he should have been there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all because of all these extra delays that could have been outsourced throughout the day and could have been helpful. And you let the administration VAs do their tasks throughout the day, you're going to get home 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon because you've just saved 2 or 3 hours throughout the whole day by not answering that phone so much, or having somebody do all those tasks for you. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Even just like using, in that aspect, using technology to make things more efficient. Like, we've worked with a few tradies and I've set up, like the whole reason why Online Guy as a name came about is because I ended up just being the online guy for a lot of these business. Like they're asking me all kinds of questions about CRMs and all kinds of stuff just because I'm a massive tech nerd, so they just assume that I'm the wizard, the tech wizard. But a lot of them, like I had a tradie that hit us up, plumber, and he's like, I'm just, I get smashed, and I'm like, well, why don't we just make your number forward to a different number? So after like 3 or 4 rings, if you don't pick it up, it just goes to VA basically that picks the call up, takes the message, and then sends him the text. So all he has to do is read the text, and if it's important, he calls back. If not, then he can just wait. It like improved his quality of life, and it took like 20 minutes to set up. But you need to like think. Yeah, it comes back to this being a martyr. You don't have to, because you've done it that way for the last 20 years. Doesn't mean you have to do it the same way going forward when there's technology to help.
And unfortunately, like I totally support that, because we did that as well when our business was growing, because I couldn't answer the phones as well as install a 3-meter splashback. I couldn't do that. I couldn't answer, couldn't do it all. And but we did that as well, and I fully agree with it. And I'm talking to all people out here, if you try new things, don't worry what the other person's saying, okay? And what I mean by that is you will get this, right? You'll get your tradies or your other contractors that you have working for you going, I tried to call you, but it went to like a reception place and it's just stupid. There will be people like that. Why? Because they're martyrs. They don't understand technology, and they don't want you to succeed because they want to get you straight away on the phone. That's not what you want to do. You want to provide a higher quality of service to your customers and do the job and be home early. You want to be home at the time that suits you, not the person bloody calling you every 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So
Well, you
don't
don't want to end up in divorce because you haven't seen your kids for 2 weeks, or you're getting home 10 every night. I think that's, it's not just money, it's quality of life. Like, part of the perks of running a business is you can choose. You shouldn't have to be a slave to it. And I think you do. I mean, like, there's different ebbs and flows in business, obviously, but like, you need to save your mental energy and capacity for when that ebb and flow happens, and you're like, okay, well, I've just got to crunch this out. Like, I've got to do like 2 or 3 days of late nights. But if you do that for like 3-4 weeks, you just don't have the mental capacity to do it when you really need to do it. And so you just, like, save the battery pack for when you really need to supercharge what you're doing and do those things that business owners can do, are the only ones that can do it. But if you just work flat out 6 weeks, like, your standard day is a 15-hour day. When you need to actually do a 15-hour day, you're not going to be as mentally prepared as if you're doing like 10-hour days or 8-hour days. And then you're like, yep, I've got to do like a week of like 15-hour days to make more money or whatever. So yeah, I think that it's not just quality quality of life. There's a whole bunch of other things that there's so many reasons to like look at processes, that it's not just money, is it? It's like there's a whole bunch of stuff that make it up to make it worthwhile doing, definitely.
But I want to know, and you touched on this, why did you start a business?
Why did I start a business?
Yeah, why?
Funny story. Like, as you know, Mandurah is not the greatest place in regards to jobs, but like I'd always done this for myself, as in the agency. So the SEO especially, I'd always done it for myself. And we were living in the wheat belt, and Pauline was starting to get pretty homesick. And I said, well, look, if we're going to move back to Mandurah, I can either sell cars at Subaru, or I can just like start to do this full time and take clients on. But I started the bit. Getting back to fundamentally why I started, it's because I wanted to control our destiny. And if it failed, at least I can put my hand on my heart and said, I did it my way. And if it failed, it failed. But I was working for another company, making them a lot of money, going, actually, fundamentally, I can't affect any real change. I can make them more money, but I can't affect any fundamental change in processes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the reason I did it. And I know everyone has different reasons for starting businesses, but like, I think when you distill it down, there's a very certain type of person that can tolerate the ebbs and flows and all the stress that comes with it, and they're driven by, you can say it's money, but like, realistically, unless a business is mature, you're not doing it for money, because like the first couple of years of most businesses not making anything anyway. It's more just there's a drive to be able to control, your own destiny, and that's what
exactly
I had.
it. That's exactly it. And that's 90% of, or 95% of business owners are doing it because they have the passion and they love what they do, right? They don't
Yes.
love, so what's your job in My Online Guy? Like, what do you love to do? You love to do websites or SEOs? Like, if that's your absolute passion, why the hell are you doing administration tasks? Why are you doing bookkeeping? Why are you doing scheduling contacts? Why are you following up? That's not what you love to do. Like, this is the absolute essence of most businesses, and this is where I dive into. I know it's a mindset thing, but like, if you got Bill and you got Joe, who are both plumbers, Bill and Bob, who are both plumbers, you're like, well, why are you doing the plumbing job? Oh, because I love it. Then why are you not reaching out to outsource the rest of your business? Because, you've got Jimmy over here who can do your marketing. You've got the administration team who could be following up for you. You could be home at 4:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, you might have to work until 5. Sorry about that. But you don't have to work until 10:00 because you have to do all the other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Those guys, their idea of a beautiful day is their like book is already full. They know where they need to go, and their book is full. That's their idea of a beautiful day. Is like they just open up their book for the day and go, oh yeah, I have my day's planned out, sweet, and just drive around and do their job. Like, there's so many tradies that are like that. they do the other stuff because it's required to run a business, and they like the freedom and like they like having the business. But that admin, it's like, it's probably I enjoy the admin, so it's different. But some of those guys, it's like pulling teeth. They can't think of anything worse than sitting in front of a computer for 2 hours and like doing quotes. Like some of these guys are just like so against it, and but they do it because it's like, well, to make that book full, which is the bit I enjoy, I need to do that part. Where like you said, you don't really. They just don't know any other way. A lot of them, like they think that's the path.
Yeah.
So like another thing I'd really noticed when following you and talking to you is the processes and the systems. Like I'm dying to hear about your processes, your daily routine, because like I just don't know where you find the time to keep all those plates spinning. Honestly, like it's one thing to have one business, but it's another thing to take on other projects and like kid as well, like, and being pregnant. I suppose the pregnant really is out of your control, but the rest is under your control. So what's your daily routine look like, and how do you keep the plate spinning?
I am so strict. My background is my dad was in the army. He's in the military for like 22 years, I think it was. So I'm very routine and very strict. And that was my upbringing as well. So, which really helps to be crazy. So once something's all lined up and my plate's just going like this constantly, that's the reason why I've started another project and like built up from there. So my daily routine, and it's funny about working hours, because even you and I, like getting this appointment, it's been a few times in the making.
Yes, it has. Yes.
Yeah, that's because I only work like between 9:30 and 2:00, Monday to Friday. That's it. I will work, like this morning we got up at 4:30, and that's our usual get up, only because I'm helping out with the glass company a little bit more because we are so freaking busy. But that's okay. Like I'm fine with that. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll get up and I'll work until 6:30 or maybe 7:00 until I wake up my son ready for school, and then I just do my daily workload. Do you know what I mean? So I'm very strict with that. I will not go out of those alignments, out of those times, because I pushed my son away for nearly 2 years. So for him growing up in that 12-month to 3-year-old phase, and I refuse to do that to him anymore. So I put him first. Yeah,
that's good. And I think getting back to this mental capacity, I think if you're working from like 6:30 till 5 every day, you wouldn't feel as gung ho about starting at 4:30 for a short period of time, because you wouldn't have your mental battery wouldn't be ready for it, because you'd just already be drained, and then you're adding those extra hours on there. And you are right. I think that's probably the hardest thing I think people struggle to balance, is that like time with children, and make sure they get fulfillment time with you. And it's something that I'm working on balancing as well. And I just try and make the weekends, like we have a pretty crazy routine, Paul and I. Like I'll get up and early, go to the gym. Pauline goes, as soon as I get home, she goes to the gym. So I do get an afternoon with the boys most afternoon. But it's definitely on the weekends, I've really tried to go, okay, well, the phone goes off, and sorry clients if you talk to Cam. Cam doesn't have kids, he's fine, go talk to Cam.
Thanks, Cam.
yeah, well look, and I'll do the same. Once he has a kid, I'll do the same thing, but like I think you forget that those kids, kids won't say anything, but it does shape, going back to that rejection thing, like things you do and say do change, and their mentality and their outlook on life. And you don't want to breed the next generation of martyr and overworkers, because they see you working 20 hours a day and going, oh, that's the normal, dad did that, I've got to do that as well. So like, I think it's, Pauline does the same hours, 9 till 2:30 sort of thing. And, you just need me able to get home and just center and get through some of the daily stuff that you need to do, having a house and things like that, is important. But, so what would your sort of daily routine consist of at Diverse Glass? How do you sort of manage all the VAs and the staff?
Yeah, so I love this. So how I managed all the plates, it took me a couple of years. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't a overnight wing it. I started to use virtual assistants a few years ago, and once I got one in and started to manage, so to bring my hours down from 100 hours down to like 80 and 60, and like it started to do like that. I was able to breathe more, and then I was able to create more systems and automations, right? So this is what we were talking about before. So when you create automations and systems in your business, you will know personally, even with yourself, you'll be able to get those steps along the way a lot quicker without you having to do any of the work. So that's the hardest bit. The hardest bit is to train you people. And I talk about virtual assistants more than my in-house team. So my in-house team means the people that I like are here I can touch. Because if I didn't have
Hopefully not touching them too much. You seen what happened you seen what happened in the government just recently, you know,
Oh
like
yeah. I'm not that type of person.
no. But yeah, sorry, yeah, so your virtual assistant. So, so how do you manage them? What do you have in place to keep them all ticking along
All in
efficiently?
check. Yeah, so I pretty much like outsource one department at a time, and then I wait until that's at least 75% capacity on perfection. So I'm a big believer. Like, I know this sounds horrible, especially to any business owner. Good is good enough. Okay, and then we can build up to greatness. So no, you don't have to be great at the start. You just have to be good, right? So that's my biggest powerful thing is that everyone's like, oh, it has to be perfect. It has to be this. It's like, no, it doesn't, because it's going to kill you. And so once I learned how to do that, and I was able to keep those plates spinning, that's when I'd outsource the next department. That's why we've actually got like 14 virtual assistants, and I don't know, like they're not all full time. They're all like individually, like whatever. But we have like 5 or 6 that are full time in those departments, and they run the company. Like if it wasn't for them, the company would be collapsed.
Yes. Yeah, because you start, I can imagine you start to build your processes around
Yeah.
how they work as well and the little intricacies. And something I think, these people, I know like a lot of people have actually started to do, look at this. Yep. It's Pauline just held up a sign. Yeah, we'll be done by then. So we, like I think you can have a lot of misfires with virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Not finding the right thing, the cultural differences, things like that. So, walk us through maybe a few of the tips you could give to some of the businesses watching about what to look for in a virtual assistant, how to make life easier and make sure that they don't just disappear on you or whatever,
Yeah, like I could go down a rabbit hole with this, couldn't I? Just a brief over. So, like, just making sure that they are, culturally fit for your business. And I'm not talking about their culture. I'm talking about your business culture. Make sure they align with you, and make sure they align with your philosophies and your vision as well. So, like, that's the biggest thing. So, you don't want somebody who you want to be growing your business with you, and they're like, no, I'm just here to do this, and it's like, no, it's not what it's for. Like, you need to make sure it's exactly like hiring a normal local person that's just walked in off the street. You got to treat them exactly the same. You got to give them the same respect. You've got to give them the same time and the effort to train them as well. So that's the biggest advice I can give, because if you're not willing to train them, you're going to fail.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Because
That's like, yeah.
yeah, it's like hiring an admin person in brick and mortar,
Yeah.
like off the street. You can't expect them to know how your business works by just having previous experience doing admin. It's like every business has got intricacies, and you've got to teach people those.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just setting them up to fail, aren't you?
Yeah. And then you literally have a sour taste in your mouth going, well, that didn't work. That was crap. It's like, no, that was your leadership. Your leadership was crap because you didn't take the time to train them. And I'm so blunt with that, because I've actually had people that who have hired me for my services, and they're saying, Toni, this isn't working. I said, well, let me look at your training videos. Let me look at the way that you're processing everything. And I'm like, well, this is a massive hole here. You need to fill this in so you can actually get your virtual assistant to do your job. So now, even when people come to me and they want a virtual assistant, I don't even give them a VA until they've completed their homework. I had a consult with a guy last Friday, and he's like, I don't want homework. I said, I don't want you as a client.
Yeah, and that's fair enough too. I think,
Yeah,
you don't want to set them up for failure either.
you
Like
don't. They're
you
paying
know
you
the process that
money.
works. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know the process that works, and we have the same philosophy here. Like if a client's not willing to give us their details and like the information we need to get started, then it's never going to work. Like if you're not committed to the process, and you can't even give us the photos we need
Yep.
in a reasonable time frame, then you're never going to give it the time it deserves. And it's the same as this. Like these VAs, they're amazing if you find the right people. Like we have VAs as part of our team, and some of them, one of them is buying a car right now. We forwarded him the deposit for that
Oh,
because it was like, he's part of the family. Like the only reason, he's not sitting in the office right now is because of COVID. Basically, we were going to try and get him over here, and
yeah.
you need to have that relationship with these people because if you do it right, they will care more about your business a lot of time than you will,
Yeah.
and they will look for things and be huge advocates of improving and making you more money because they just genuinely, they want to see you succeed because obviously it's in their best interest, but also just because over. So I'll talk about the Philippines. So I'm actually half Filipino, right? And culturally over there, they're incredibly loyal people to people that are loyal to them, and they're incredibly loyal. Some of them work in businesses that are like treat them terribly just out of loyalty. So if you can give them a reason to be loyal to you, they'll be loyal forever.
Yep.
And I think that's where it falls over a little bit is that people don't see them as people; they see them as like commodities or resources, treat
Yes.
them as such. And then, little things like all our Filipino team, that our general VAs and stuff, we sent over shirts. So like they have our shirts and everything, and they wear them out to out and about. One got a police clearance the other day for this car, and he's got his shirt on. I was like, well, don't end up on the news because that photo will end up being the most wanted, in the in the Philippines. So yeah, I think it's the same. Treat those people the same way you would have, like, because that's the thing, right? Like a lot of these plumbers and stuff. If there was someone sitting in the office going like this because they didn't have what they needed to do the job, you would go over there and give them what they need for the job.
That's
Or
right.
because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not doing the same
Right.
thing. So I think I think a lot of these people that like the idea of VAs but don't actually want to put the effort into doing that. But you have a fix for that, don't you, Tony?
I do. There's so many ways. Are we going to talk about?
Yeah, talk about how you can help these. One of the biggest things I see is businesses understand the idea. They've seen the Tim Ferrisses and the Gary. They know it's like we need to do something, but again, it's just another plate to be spinning,
Yeah.
which they don't quite frankly have time for. So like, yeah, I know you've got your boss packages and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
talk people through that and how you can help them with that.
Yeah, and that's that I love the boss package. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I stole the word from my obviously outsourcing like a boss, and it's a fancy acronym for building organic and sustainable sales, right? Because you know how we were talking earlier, and Megan, we were talking about following up with clients and the rejection's painful, and you can't actually do that. I've developed a program, and you're not using virtual assistants. It's like me actually doing this for you on your behalf, following up with your clients so that way you can secure more work. So obviously I have like different ranges of what I can do to help business owners. But I can either get you a virtual assistant and have them do your administration tasks for you, or I can actually follow up and instantly make money for you, generate money straight away. So like, it's a win-win. So you can either have money or time. Which one do you want?
Or both. Or both.
Or both, yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if you were to dive into the boss formula and using the clients that you already have, and then but you don't have time to follow up, you don't have time to make those phone calls, but you want to generate more money because they are already your clients, they've already called you, then give me a call because I'll be able to make those calls on your behalf, right? And and obviously you know me, you can see me. I am a human being,
Yeah.
and
Not
yeah,
one of them robot VAs.
no robot VAs.
But
Yeah.
it might be a good way for businesses to dip their toes in the water about with outsourcing, and because I think there's a bit of a stigma with outsourcing overseas as well, which is unwarranted in my opinion, but it's a stigma. So it might be a good way to dip your toes in the water and go as a business and go, actually, like, I'm willing to give up some of this stuff to someone, and then as you see how it works, you start to explore different things that you can outsource, and eventually you're freeing up time and making money, which is where all businesses need to be.
Yeah. So usually like the boss formula is the stepping stone. So you know that I'm based in Mandurah, Perth, Western Australia. You know that I can talk very good English and I have been in a brick and mortar business. So therefore that gives my clients the trust, right? And once after about 2 or 3 months after we've been doing the boss formula, I go, okay, what else can we outsource? Oh, Toni, I need this outsourced now because they've just built up the trust and they know that I've been using a system and an automation process that helps the business grow. And that's going to make you more money.
Yep, 100%. And like, it's funny once you realize, it's amazing what innovations and ideas and stuff can come out once you have a little bit more time to think about this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest thing that's come from us, well, from me, outsourcing a little bit more of the process driven stuff in the business, is like it frees up capacity to think of innovative ways and think of ways to grow, and like, there's, well, just in this office there's 5 people that depend on me being able to do that. So
Yeah.
like, I think if you got employees, you have an obligation to make sure that you spend time to think about ways to innovate and evolve.
Yeah.
Dave Clare's big on evolution, and it's so true. Like, you're a plumber. There's also other million plumbers out there, right? So how are you going to continue to generate the inquiries and the traffic flow? That's your responsibility as a business owner.
Yeah.
Is you have people's mouths to feed. There's a lot of people that rely on you being able to do that well, and quite frankly, if you've been in business a long time, that's just par for the course. But like, I think it gives you a bit of time. One of the biggest things I see is like, business owners are like, oh, I don't have the time to look at the marketing and stuff. Well, freeing up a bit of time to be able to look at that is actually in everyone's best interest. But I completely understand you need the time first. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a really good value proposition for a business that is looking to just start the process. It's not, like you said, it's not something that just happens overnight, is it? Like,
No. And the biggest thing about that, and you've just started to touch on it, and I won't go because I know that we're probably capping out our time soon. But once you start like outsourcing, like you start that process, for example, you hire me, I follow up with jobs, I get you, secure you more leads, perfect. But you have a receptionist or you have an admin task, like Pauline, your wife. So you have her, who's helping her. So this
yeah,
is where I dive into those aspects, right? So this is the exact reason why I started outsourcing like a boss. It's like, well, who was helping me? I'm doing bookkeeping. I'm doing all this crap, social media, all this stuff that I don't even like doing, but I'm doing this because I love my husband and I'm doing this for him. Who's helping me, right? So it's very
yeah.
selfish. But when I, very selfish, sorry about that, guys. But when we started to grow diverse glazing group and we've got administration staff, well, I thought, do you know what I mean? So it was like a bit of a evolution to go through that phase, and that's why we've got so many VAs, is because everyone's helping everybody now. Instead of everybody's just doing that one job, one task, you want them to do multiple, and yeah, it grows.
It's 100%. Like, there'd be no way Pauline could do the hours she does if we didn't have a structure to sort of, because it's really like very few people in this business actually help me, surprisingly. But admittedly, my job is a lot of like
Yeah.
doing this kind of stuff, proposals and the SEO. But like, you know, there to help Cam, there to help Pauline, there to help Michelle Will. They're there to help.
Yes.
They're the pit crew. Like, that's the way. When I talk to people about how it works, is like, you have in Formula One, you have the driver, right?
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're the ones that are the highest paid in the team. But without the driver, the car can't get around the track. But without the car, the driver can't get around the track. So without the pit crew to keep that car going, the car can't get around the track. Without the support crew that supports the pit crew, the pit crew can't fix the car, keep the car on the track. So like, yeah, okay, obviously I'm the face, and but like, actually the support team is there to support keep the car moving forward, not to
That's
support
right.
me driving the car, because
No,
that's where the skill comes in. So
that's right.
I think that's maybe how businesses need to look at this. Is like, actually, it's not there to replace you doing the plumbing work,
No,
because that's what, that's
that's
your
what we
skill.
do.
You're the driver.
Yeah,
But it's there to replace they're there to put the wheels in the car. They're there to make sure the car keeps going around the track as fast as possible,
yeah,
breaking lap times. And that's what their VAs are there to do, is to help. They're there to support everything else, so you can literally just get in the car and
and
drive around the track,
yeah,
which is what
absolutely.
people are paying you to do. So I
Yeah,
think sometimes businesses need to, like, at the moment they're driving a different league where they don't need a pit crew, but actually, well, you need to step it up and start to get that pit crew so you can move into a different league.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's how I've always looked at this business, is like, yeah, at the end it feels like these guys are all just here to support me, but at the end of the day the car doesn't go around the track without them. So
no,
yeah. But
absolutely. Yeah.
but Tony, how can people? Yeah, we will have to wrap this up in a second. But
Yep.
how can people find you? I know there'll be some people that have like some questions, follow up questions after this. So how can people find you, and how can they get in touch?
I'm a human being, so just feel free to reach out and privately message me. I'm not one of those automated, like, I'm not like, nope, never going to, reach out or message you back. I always message everybody. So you can either, I think we can send through the links a little bit later, but,
Yep.
Facebook, email, or my website, and I can make an appointment and we can just have a chat. So yeah, totally available for you guys. Outsourcinglikeaboss.com.au.
Fantastic. Every person I've had on here, the same deal. Like, if someone just wants some advice and some help, um, you know, people that do jobs professionally are willing to give advice and help. And I'm sure if you reached out to Tony and said, "Look, I don't even know what I need, but can we just have a chat?" I'm sure she would give you the advice and help, because that's just what collaborative people do. And
Yeah.
I've always found Tony to be collaborative. So yeah, just even if you're just unsure about whether someone can help you or not with that, just talk to Tony. I'm sure she'll steer you in the right direction, and then it may not be outsourcing, it may be something else. And then Tony's definitely the person very well qualified to talk about it. So use that. We'll end on Jimmy's comment. Jimmy.
Yeah.
So, like, for context, Jimmy's
Love it.
he's just started his laser cutting business, but he's also a world record holder in sim racing. So he's actually well, I don't know if he's professional, but he's a very, very highly skilled driver.
Yeah.
So he must have literally just tuned in when he heard me talking about driving, and yeah, but like, yeah, thank you so much, Tony, for jumping on and taking an hour out of your busy day.
Thank you.
I know you've got the time, you outsourced, it's all good, but thank you once again. And guys, tune in next week. I think we're going to do these on Wednesday morning. It seems to be a good time. We actually had like 20 people concurrently, just the whole stream. So obviously you were very entertaining. But yeah, tune in, guys, next week. I'm not sure who we're going to have on yet. If you'd love to come on and have a chat, you don't even have to be specialized or skill or anything. I just love talking to good people. So yeah, just let me know if you want to come on, and we'll have a chat about what you're doing in business, or what you do. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys. See ya.